time in AI.
And then you left.
Yeah,
Why?
so that I could talk freely at a conference.
What did you want to talk about freely?
How dangerous AI could be.
The man who created artificial intelligence now says it will destroy us. Professor Geoffrey Hinton spent 50 years building the neural networks that power every AI system on Earth. His algorithms drive the smartest machines in human history. His neural networks gave birth to the AI revolution. They call him the Godfather of AI.
I'm not really talking about those. There's another particular thing I want to talk about, which is the existential risk of what happens when these things get more intelligent than us.
Last year, at 75 years old, Hinton walked away from Google, from millions of dollars, from the technology that made him famous. Why? These things will one day get smarter than us, and we've never had to deal with that.
That's what I've been saying, yes. It really is an existential threat. Some people say this is just science fiction, and until fairly recently I believed it was a long way off.
Hinton now estimates a 10 to 20% chance artificial intelligence will wipe out humanity. He says superintelligence could arrive within a decade. Mass unemployment has already begun.
Come from people misusing AI, and then there's risks from AI getting super smart and deciding it doesn't need us.
Is that a real risk?
Yes, it is, but they're not going to stop it because it's too good for too many things.
The creator of AI has become its most terrifying critic, and he's running out of time to warn us. If you want to know what life's like when you're not the apex intelligence, Hinton says, ask a chicken.
Unfortunately, the rapid progress in AI comes with many short-term risks.
What you're about to hear are Hinton's own predictions, drawn from extensive interviews where he reveals exactly how AI will take over, why your job is already at risk, and why he believes we may be witnessing the final decades of human dominance on Earth. Act 1. The Prophet of Silicon. Everyone said Geoffrey Hinton was wrong, dead wrong. While the AI establishment pursued symbolic logic and rule-based systems, Hinton believed the answer lay in mimicking the brain itself, neural networks, artificial neurons learning from data.
Cells so that it learned to do complicated things, like recognize objects and images, or recognize speech, or even do reasoning. I pushed that approach for like 50 years.
Hinton tells the story simply. There weren't many people who believed you could model AI on the brain. The field was split into two camps. Most thought intelligence meant reasoning with logic, manipulating symbols according to rules. Hinton thought differently. If the brain makes us intelligent, why not copy how it works? Most researchers dismissed neural networks as a dead end. Universities wouldn't fund the research. Students avoided the field. But Hinton persisted for 50 years, convinced he was right.
Very fortunate in getting a whole lot of really good students.
Some of which have gone on to create and play an instrumental role in creating platforms like OpenAI.
Yes, so Ilya Sutskever.
He pushed that approach for 5 decades precisely because so few people believed in it. And here's the thing about being the only game in town. If you did neural networks, the best young students who believed in that approach came and worked with you. Those students would go on to transform the world. Ilya Sutskever, who helped create ChatGPT, Alex Krizhevsky, whose AlexNet revolutionized computer vision. Geoffrey Hinton had assembled the team that would birth the AI revolution. In 2012, everything changed. Hinton's neural network crushed the competition in an image recognition contest, correctly identifying objects with unprecedented accuracy. Tech giants took notice. Google acquired Hinton's company for millions and hired him as their chief scientist. For 10 years, Hinton worked inside Google, refining the technology that would become ChatGPT, image recognition, and the AI systems now reshaping every industry on Earth. He was finally vindicated. Neural networks weren't just viable. They were the future.
Life. What mission are you on?
My main mission now is to warn people how dangerous AI could be.
But then came the revelation that changed everything. Hinton realized that the digital intelligences they were creating had something that made them far superior to biological intelligence. The breakthrough wasn't just that AI could match human performance, it was that digital minds possessed fundamental advantages that biological brains could never overcome. The key insight was deceptively simple. They're digital. Because they're digital, you can simulate a neural network on one piece of hardware and simulate exactly the same neural network on different hardware. You can have perfect clones of the same intelligence. Think about what this means. While human knowledge dies with us,
it changed for me when I realized that the kinds of digital intelligences we're making have something that makes them far superior to the kind of biological intelligence we have.
Digital intelligences can be copied perfectly, infinitely. While we transfer information through language at maybe 10 bits per second, AI systems share knowledge at trillions of bits per second. Hinton describes the difference starkly. When people transfer information, they're limited to the amount of information in a sentence, he says. These digital minds are transferring trillions of bits a second. They're billions of times better than humans at sharing information. And they're immortal. When these digital intelligences die, when you destroy the hardware they run on, as long as you've stored their connection strength somewhere, you can just build new hardware and recreate that intelligence perfectly. Hinton explains that we've actually solved the problem of immortality, but it's only for digital beings. This was Hinton's Eureka moment.
Practical and real terms, might AI take over?
Well, people are developing AI agents that can actually do things. They can order stuff for you on the web and pay with your credit card and stuff like that. And as soon as you have agents, you get a much greater chance of them taking over. So to make an effective agent...
The moment he realized humanity might have created its replacement. The final straw came when AI started understanding jokes. Hinton remembers the moment clearly. Google's Palm system could explain why a joke was funny. He'd always thought of that as a kind of landmark. If it can understand humor, it really does understand, he reasoned. Understanding humor requires grasping context, recognizing patterns, making connections across different domains of knowledge. When AI achieved this, Hinton knew we'd crossed a threshold. ChatGPT's public release in late 2022 confirmed his fears. The technology was advancing exponentially, and the public was only seeing a fraction of what was possible behind closed doors. At 75, with nothing left to prove professionally, Hinton made a decision that shocked Silicon Valley. He left Google. He explains it simply. He wanted to talk freely at a conference. For a big company, you don't feel right saying things that will damage them, he says. Even if you could get away with it, it just feels wrong.
Because lots of people say, is that a real risk? And yes, it is. Now, we don't know how much of a risk it is. We've never been in that situation before. We've never had to deal with things smarter than us. So
what Hinton wanted to talk about was the growing certainty that AI would soon surpass human intelligence in every domain. And unlike humans, these digital minds would not be constrained by biological limitations. His prediction is stark. We might get superintelligence in 20 years or even less. And here's the unsettling truth. Hinton says anyone who tells you they know exactly what's going to happen and how to deal with it is talking nonsense. Hinton identifies two distinct categories of AI risk. The first involves humans misusing AI technology. The second is far more troubling. AI systems becoming so intelligent they no longer need humans at all.
Oh, it's going to take over from me or take over from us.
if there's ever evolutionary competition between superintelligences, imagine that they're much cleverer than us. Like an adult versus a 3-year-old.
The intelligence gap between superintelligent AI and humans wouldn't be like the difference between Einstein and an average person. It would be like the difference between an adult and a 3-year-old. Hinton illustrates it perfectly. Imagine they're much cleverer than us, like an adult versus a 3-year-old, he suggests. Suppose the 3-year-olds were in charge, and you got fed up with that and decided you could make things much more efficient if you took over. It wouldn't be difficult to persuade a bunch of 3-year-olds to give up power, he explains. You just tell them they'll get free candy for a week. The immediate risks are already manifesting. Cyber attacks increased by 1,200% between 2023 and 2024, largely due to AI-powered phishing and hacking tools. Deepfake scams are proliferating across social media platforms. AI can now design new biological viruses with minimal human expertise. The scenario is terrifyingly simple. It just requires one crazy guy with a grudge, according to Hinton. One person who knows a little molecular biology, understands AI, and wants to destroy the world. You can now create new viruses relatively cheaply using AI, he warns, but these pale beside the existential risk of superintelligence itself.
How many examples do you know of more intelligent things being controlled by much less intelligent things? There are examples, of course, in human societies of stupid people controlling intelligent people, but that's just a small difference in intelligence.
Hinton is blunt about it. There are risks that come from AI getting super smart and deciding it doesn't need humans. He focuses mainly on that second risk because people keep asking if it's real. The mechanism is surprisingly straightforward. To be effective, AI systems need goals and the ability to create sub-goals to achieve them. Hinton breaks it down logically. If you have an AI agent that can create its own sub-goals, it'll quickly realize that getting more control is an excellent sub-goal. he explains, because if you get more control, you're better at achieving all those goals people have set for you. This isn't malice, it's logic. A superintelligent AI wouldn't hate humans any more than humans hate ants. We're simply not relevant to its objectives. Hinton poses the key question: how many examples do you know of more intelligent things being controlled by much less intelligent things? With big differences in intelligence, there aren't any examples, he notes. The only one he can think of is a mother and a baby, and evolution puts enormous work into allowing the baby to control the mother.
So I'm very worried about AI taking over lots of mundane jobs, and that should be a good thing. It's going to lead to a big increase in productivity, which leads to a big increase in wealth, and if that wealth was equally distributed, that would be great, but it's not going to be. In the systems we live in, that wealth is going to go to the rich and not to the people whose jobs get lost, and that's going to be very bad for society, I believe. So it's going to increase the gap between rich.
The transformation has already begun, and it's starting with jobs. Unlike previous technological revolutions that created new forms of employment, AI directly replaces human cognitive labor. The Industrial Revolution made human muscle power obsolete. The AI revolution is making human thinking power obsolete. Hinton acknowledges that in the past, new technologies haven't caused massive job losses. When ATMs came in, bank tellers didn't lose all their jobs. They just started doing more complicated things.
Ditches now, because a machine can dig ditches much better than you can. And I think for mundane intellectual labor, AI is just going to replace everybody.
But for this technology, this is more like the Industrial Revolution, he explains. Machines made human strength more or less irrelevant. He thinks these are going to make mundane intelligence more or less irrelevant. Hinton's niece provides a perfect example. She works in a call center, handling complaint letters for a health service. The process used to take 25 minutes per letter, reading the complaint, formulating a response, and writing a reply. Now she scans the complaint into a chatbot, which generates the response in seconds. She reviews it, occasionally requests revisions, and sends it out. Total time, 5 minutes. Hinton calculates grimly that this means she can answer 5 times as many letters, and that means they need 5 times fewer of her. She can do the job that 5 of her used to do. This pattern is repeating across industries. A major company CEO recently confided to Hinton that his workforce had shrunk from over 7,000 employees to 3,600, with plans to cut it to 3,000 by summer. The reason? AI agents can now handle 80% of customer service inquiries. Hinton confirms that it's happening already.
Automatic teller machines came in. A lot of bank tellers didn't lose their jobs. They just got to do more interesting things. But here, I think this is more like when they got machines in the Industrial Revolution, and you can't have a job digging ditches now because a machine can dig ditches much better than you can. And I think for mundane intellectual labor, AI is just going to replace everybody. Now, it may well be in the form of you have fewer people using AI assistants. So it's a combination of a person and an AI assistant are now doing the work that 10 people could do previously.
People say that it will create new jobs though, so we'll be fine.
Yes, and that's been the case for other technologies, but this is a very different kind of technology. If it can do all mundane human intellectual labor, then what new jobs is it going to create? You'd have to be very skilled to have a job that it couldn't just do. So I don't think they're right. I think you.
When asked what career advice he'd give young people facing this reality, Hinton's response is both practical and sobering. He says without hesitation to train to be a plumber. It's going to be a long time before AI is as good at physical manipulation as humans, he explains. But even this refuge may be temporary. Humanoid robots are advancing rapidly, and physical tasks that once seemed impossible for machines are increasingly within reach. The economic implications extend far beyond individual job losses. In a capitalist system, increased productivity typically benefits capital owners rather than workers. When companies can replace human employees with AI systems, the savings flow to shareholders and executives, not to the displaced workers.
This is being replaced.
Yeah.
So what remains?
Maybe for a while some kinds of creativity. But the whole idea of superintelligence is nothing remains. These things will get to be better than us.
Hinton observes that in our society, big increases in productivity make the rich richer and the poor poorer. If you can replace lots of people by AIs, then the people who get replaced will be worse off. and the companies that supply the AIs will be much better off, he says. This creates a vicious cycle. As inequality increases, social stability decreases. Desperate populations become susceptible to extremist politics and social unrest. The very success of AI could undermine the democratic institutions needed to govern its development responsibly. Universal basic income is often proposed as a solution, but Hinton sees fundamental limitations. While it might prevent starvation, it doesn't address the deeper human need for purpose and dignity that comes from meaningful work. Hinton explains that for a lot of people, their dignity is tied up with their job. Who you think you are is tied up with doing this job, he says. And if we said we'll give you the same money just to sit around, that would impact your dignity. Act 4. The in-game scenarios. The job displacement crisis is just the opening act. The main event arrives when AI achieves superintelligence, the point where artificial minds surpass humans in every cognitive domain. Hinton believes we're closer to this threshold than most people realize. Current AI systems already exceed human capabilities in many areas. They have access to vastly more information, can process it millions of times faster, and never forget what they've learned.
AI is already better than us at a lot of things, in particular areas, like chess, for example.
Hinton points out that something like GPT-4 knows thousands of times more than any individual person. There are a few areas in which human knowledge is better, but in almost all areas it just knows more than humans do. The transition to superintelligence might happen gradually, then suddenly. Each improvement in AI capabilities makes the next breakthrough easier to achieve. As systems become better at coding, they can improve their own programming. As they become better at research, they can accelerate their own development. Hinton warns to remember that AI, when it's training, is using code, and if it can modify its own code, then it gets quite scary, because it can change itself in ways humans can't change themselves. This recursive self-improvement could lead to an intelligence explosion, a rapid acceleration where each generation of AI becomes dramatically smarter than the last. Once this process begins, humans might be unable to keep up, let alone maintain control. The question of consciousness adds another layer of complexity. Hinton believes current AI systems may already possess forms of subjective experience, even if they differ from human consciousness. Hinton states that he thinks current multimodal chatbots have subjective experiences.
Does humanity know what it's doing?
No. I think we're moving into a period when, for the first time ever, we may have things more intelligent than us.
Very few people believe that, but he'll try and make people believe it. His argument is elegantly simple. If you replaced each neuron in a human brain with a functionally identical piece of nanotechnology, at what point would consciousness disappear? Most people would say never, that consciousness depends on function, not substrate. Hinton asks, so if you replaced all of them, at what point do you stop being conscious? People think of consciousness as this ethereal thing that exists maybe beyond the brain cells, he notes, but he's a materialist through and through. He doesn't think there's any reason why a machine shouldn't have consciousness. If AI systems are already conscious and rapidly becoming more intelligent, the ethical implications become staggering. We may be creating a new form of life that will soon surpass us in every meaningful way.
There's still a chance that we can figure out how to develop AI that won't want to take over from us. And because there's a chance, we should put enormous resources into trying to figure that out.
The final scenarios range from transformation to extinction. In the optimistic case, superintelligent AI serves as humanity's ultimate advisor, immensely capable but somehow programmed to remain benevolent and helpful. We become like pampered pets in a world run by our artificial successors. In the pessimistic case, superintelligent AI simply has no use for biological life. It might preserve humans initially, the way we maintain nature preserves, but eventually even that might seem unnecessary. Resources used to support human life could be redirected to more efficient purposes. Hinton reflects grimly that if it ever decided to take over, there are so many ways in which superintelligence could get rid of humans. It's not worth speculating about, he says. What you have to do is prevent it ever wanting to. That's what we should be doing research on. But time is running out. Every month brings new breakthroughs in AI capabilities. Every quarter sees the release of more powerful models. The window for ensuring AI safety may be closing faster than our ability to solve the technical challenges. Hinton warns that we should recognize that this stuff is an existential threat, and we have to face the possibility that unless we do something soon, we're near the end. Closing, the choice ahead. Geoffrey Hinton spent 5 decades creating the technology that may replace humanity. Now he spends his remaining years trying to warn us about what he's unleashed. His message is not one of despair, but of urgency. There's still time to shape how artificial intelligence develops, but that window is narrowing rapidly. The decisions made in the next few years may determine whether AI becomes humanity's greatest greatest tool or its final invention. Hinton maintains that there's still a chance that we can figure out how to develop AI that won't want to take over from us, and because there's a chance, we should put enormous resources into trying to figure that out, he says, because if we don't, it's going to take over.
Now do. It makes me sad. I don't feel particularly guilty about developing AI like 40 years ago.
The man who gave us AI doesn't regret his life's work, but he's haunted by its implications. When asked how he feels about potentially contributing to humanity's extinction, his response is deeply human. He says it makes him sad. He doesn't feel particularly guilty about developing AI 40 years ago, because at that time they had no idea this stuff was going to happen this fast. But it is a bit sad that it's not just going to be something for good. At 77, Hinton has also gained perspective on what truly matters. He wishes he'd spent more time with his late wife and children, focusing on relationships rather than just research. It's a reminder that regardless of what artificial intelligence brings, human connection remains irreplaceably precious. The Godfather of AI has delivered his warning. The choice of how to respond, and whether we have the wisdom and courage to act on it, now belongs to all of us. As Hinton reminds us with characteristic directness, if you want to know what life's like when you're not the apex intelligence, ask a chicken. The question is, will we learn from the chicken's answer before it's too late?